storytelling formulas that will make your copywriting irresistible. Hey, you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance copywriter, a copywriting mentor, and storytelling is quite honestly probably one of the most important and most powerful skills that you need to develop in copywriting to have the biggest impact because we connect through stories. I cannot tell you the amount of times in working with so many copywriters as they're learning and growing, I've had to encourage them to go back and ask themselves, like, where can I show what I'm trying to explain rather than tell, right? In fact, that's something I go through my own copy and ask myself that question. Because anytime you can tell a story to demonstrate a point, it is going to connect with your reader in such a more profound way. We are empathetic beings, and when we put ourselves in other people's shoes through story, we can also imagine ourselves there. This is based in psychology. So this is not me just saying it's effective because of my experience or because I've seen what works. It's why we love stories. It's why we return to stories. It's why we love movies. It's why we love books. So when you are a copywriter, getting better at storytelling has got to be a top priority. And I want to give you a few ideas and angles that you can incorporate when you're feeling stuck or when you're just kind of practicing your skill set as a copywriter. And one thing I'd love to add before we dig in is that oftentimes when I have people who are considering copywriting come to me and talk to me about whether or not they would like it, if it would be something they'd be good at, they oftentimes think that copywriting is going to be really dry and boring and scientific. And they think I would prefer to be a creative copywriter. But I often have to remind them that creativity is inherently a part of being a good copywriter because storytelling is so essential to being a good copywriter. And if you are one of those people who thinks, eek, I'm not really the creative type, I get you, because actually that was me. I was much more involved in the sciences. And so I was very intimidated actually by the idea of creativity and storytelling and copy because it was so much more based in emotion and I felt so much more comfortable in technical writing and in facts and figures and numbers. But we know that that is just like not how the brain operates, right? That is not what resonates the most, even though we like to pretend that we're super rational beings and that's how we make decisions. Anyone who studies psychology knows that that's not the case. And so working on strengthening your storytelling muscle and your creativity muscle is super important. And keep in mind, it really is a muscle. Again, I did not consider myself creative, but over time I've practiced it and I've gotten so much better. Just like any other craft, all you got to do is practice it, learn about it, study it, implement it, and you will grow and get better. Okay, so let's dig into some of my favorite storytelling angles to help my copywriting. The first one I really love is joining the journey. Again, something I often have to remind my students is that people prefer to be shown things and not told things. And this is something that has really helped me not only become a better copywriter, but become a better person, quite frankly, because it's so much less effective to, when somebody's asking for advice, tell them what they should do. And it's so much better if you can show them through examples and story. So getting somebody to join a journey with you through storytelling is so powerful. What I mean by that is taking a reader through solving a problem step by step. This can be through sharing your own personal story, a business or a brand story. This can be done through a case study. This can also be done through highlighting a testimonial. But what you want to do is you want to take this particular story, and usually there's like an objection, a juicy objection that's really common to your product or service. And you highlight that and you show people that it can be overcome and that your product or service is in fact the solution. So you want to start with really digging into the problem and the emotions that are created by the problem. That's the starting point because then the reader is going to think, wow, they get me. That's where I am too. For me, one of the stories I often tell my students is how I was so intimidated to start my copywriting website because I just felt like I wasn't qualified. I felt like an imposter. I didn't feel like I really understood SEO, even though I had been studying it. I do not consider myself, and neither does my team, a tech savvy person. And so it was just so hard, even though I was using a Squarespace template to start, right? So I was trying to grapple with writing the website, implementing SEO, picking a design when I don't feel confident in design, and then trying to make it all kind of come together, and ultimately not even being sure whether it was like worth it or not. The emotional turmoil I put myself through when I was building my first copywriting website was a lot. There was fear, there was doubt, there was insecurity, there was uncertainty. I mean, it was just a lot. So maybe you provide templates for people who are just starting out and can't afford a giant $20,000 website, but are really stuck in this place that I was in. This would be really great to tap into. Making sure that you paint that picture shows your reader that you really understand where they are. After you do that, you want to present your product or service as the solution. Again, so maybe you create these templates so that all they have to do is write small sections that they know are going to go in particular parts of a layout. So then the next step is presenting your product or service as a solution. For example, maybe you make website templates that in each of the little sections kind of has a prompt that shows somebody exactly what they should write. And maybe it's only little sections of like 100 words or so they can do it in bite-sized pieces. They don't have to sit down and create something completely from scratch. And maybe you include in it a quick training on how to find the best SEO keywords for their particular business. And again, because we're storytelling, we're going to use an actual story of somebody who's walked through the process of using your product or service and come out the other side feeling so much more at ease and confident and proud of their website, right? So using details is really important in storytelling. Little tiny details about not agonizing over which fonts make you look professional, or not agonizing which colors look good together, and if it will look timeless or super dated, right? Nobody wants a website that looks like it was built in 1998. So these are the ways that you can take somebody along the journey, so in showing them exactly how they will feel in the end. And now at the end of this, you got to make sure you really dig into the juxtaposing emotions that are going to be at play when they've resolved this problem. I've kind of touched on them a little bit, but it could be things like feeling really confident, feeling proud, reaching out to clients with more confidence, finally sharing it with their friends and family because they're no longer embarrassed about it. I mean, there are going to be so many individual stories that come from actual testimonials. Another storytelling angle that I really love is bringing somebody one step closer to a belief that they need to participate with your product or service. Let me explain that a little bit better. I'm going to use my course, Write Your Way to Freedom. For most people, they are starting out in a 9-to-5 world where they're exchanging time for money, right? So they go in, they get paid an hourly wage, and it is a life-changing realization to realize that when you untie your time from your earning potential, that you are able to earn so much more, work less, and ultimately bring more value into the work that you do and the impact that you have. It's such a powerful mindset shift that needs to happen. So this storytelling element is just bringing them one step closer to challenging some of their old school mindset beliefs. And again, you want to start out with things that they already know, where they already are. So for example, for me, I shared my own personal experience with this. You know, I was raised to believe that going to university, getting a job, waiting in line for raises, asking for 2 weeks paid vacation off every year or unpaid vacation was the way. It was the only way. And it was really confusing when I started to look at my life and realize that it was going to largely be on hold, waiting for these incremental raises, or even having to go back and get my master's and my PhD, which was going to mean way more student debt to just get like a tiny, tiny raise. And it really was an important shift for me to realize that there had to be a better way. So I often share that story about how, you know, my beliefs came to me directly from my parents who, you know, grew up in a time much different than the one we live in right now. So that's an important belief for somebody to realize, to open their eyes and see what's going on in the world. So when I am talking about my course, Write Your Way to Freedom, I often have to work to get somebody to see exactly that belief, because to understand that is an important realization to have to be ready and excited and see the importance of investing in a new skill set outside of the prescribed path that so many of us are stuck on. So when you're using this storytelling element, ask yourself, what are some beliefs that my prospects have that keep them small or limited or stuck, and ultimately less likely to use my product or service because they need this belief in order to move forward? And then tell a story around it, right? Start where they were, as we just talked about, really dug in, really highlighting the emotions, and then moving into actually showing them what happens on the other side when you start to dismantle beliefs like this, which is sharing stories of people who have gone through my program, for example, who are able to make 6 figures a year while only working 4 hours a day. And that gives them the time and energy to be able to really dig back in and give to their family and their friends and their community. So sharing individual stories like that is so important. So shifting beliefs is one of my favorite storytelling angles to incorporate into copy all across the board. I use it a lot with my clients. And the best way to identify them is to look at common objections and see what beliefs are creating these objections. Okay, here's my favorite one, and this is fearlessly handling objections. All too often, people shy away from handling objections, but copywriters know that that is really, really a bad idea. It's so powerful to confidently handle objections. So for example, if you're selling a keto product and people think there's no way that keto is going to work for me, keto is a fad diet, it's going to be hard, I'm not going to be able to do it. One of the best things that you can do is highlight that objection and tell a story that directly shows the opposite to be true, right? So maybe you share a story of somebody who has successfully used your keto supplement to detox from sugar, to lose weight, to feel better and more energetic with their kids. And again, the key is about really digging into where they are, where they started. So probably they have a lot of fear. They have a lot of confusion. They feel like there's too many things to keep track of. You know, tracking your macros when you're first starting is really intimidating, but maybe you have a product or a service within your keto company that helps them do that, right? So it's a breeze. It's not that hard. And then also maybe you have a supplement that helps with keto flu. So you're sharing a story, again, starting where they're in pain, where they're uncomfortable, and where they're afraid to change, because we're all afraid to change because ultimately we're trying to stay safe. And usually change is scary because it means we're going to be embarking in a place, an arena in life that might not be so safe, right? So really digging into that and painting a picture through specifics. You know, maybe you have a testimonial about a woman named Allison, and she was so scared to start it because she was afraid of having the keto flu. She was afraid of, you know, getting too obsessive around watching her macros because maybe she's struggled with eating disorders before. But also she was primed for change because she wanted to have more energy, lose weight, and be healthier and happier to be there for her daughter because she just had a baby, for example, right? See how that's such a specific way of starting a story with somebody who probably a lot of people can relate to and how they're stuck in their problem. Then you showcase how she moved into your program and was able to use your services. You know, she combated keto flu, which, because quite frankly, she's a new mom and she doesn't have time to feel sick, right? Her whole goal is to have energy for her daughter, right? So she was able to combat all the things, all the resistance. And then ultimately, she maybe lost a lot of weight, feels better, feels energized. And then she doesn't even have to be on strict keto for forever, right? It's not something that she needed. It was something that was just to kind of kickstart her metabolism. It was also something that kind of got her sugar cravings down. And then ultimately, what happened on the other side? She was able to show up for her daughter and be more present and be less sluggish and have a clearer mind. And so she was able to call her sister more because she wasn't so tired. So then you work in details with this particular story to showcase how the objections that were holding Allison back were super solvable and not that big a deal, especially when you had the support and resources of your product or service. Now, these are totally made up examples, obviously with the exception of my course, but you can see how telling a story is just so much more powerful than saying, yeah, we have a supplement that has like vitamin B, D, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like just going through and listing out like what it has. That doesn't translate into a transformation or an emotional benefit. And so you have to do that work as a copywriter. Anyway, storytelling is my favorite. I could go on and on. I'm curious if this even like is interesting to you. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if it is. Leave comments. Let me know how you're incorporating storytelling into your copy. And maybe I'll do more videos like this. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.